Red alert, 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 red alert.
War and rumors of war. Today's discussion, World War, a bullet point look at the world as it moves ever closer to World War III. This is part 1. 2,600 years ago, Daniel identified the empires that would arise and fall. Jesus explained to his disciples what the end times would look like, and many years later, John wrote Revelations, vividly depicting the events that were to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived. The deception, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines, pestilence, earthquake in various places, and all these are the beginning of sorrow. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end will come. In the beginning of World War II, after the Nazis reclaimed the Rhineland in 1936, marched into Austria in 1938, and forced a vote, which was fixed, to join Germany. 6 months later, Hitler demanded the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, and shortly after invaded and captured Czechoslovakia. Hitler then signed a non-aggression pact with Russia. The invasion of Poland followed. Poland was the official start of World War II in Europe. There was a period where limited action took place by either side. Most of the action that did occur was in the Atlantic Ocean. The British called this period the Phony War, while the Germans called it Sitzkrieg. It was an 8-month period where there was limited conflict. Fast forward to today. Russia is following Hitler's playbook. 10 years ago, Russia invaded Georgia. In 2014, it was Western Ukraine and the Crimea. Russia held a vote in that area so that they could vote to join Russia. Totally fabricated, of course. Then they started to build up forces around the Ukraine, and the world did nothing, said nothing. Putin started a war by invading the Ukraine. There are those who say we already are well into World War III. It just happens we are in the phony war phase. But do not let that fool you. There are men and women fighting and dying in this conflict. The trigger is getting closer and closer. One wrong move, one miscalculation. So let's look at what is happening that indicates we are accelerating toward an all-out global conflict. We will divide this into 3 sections: Europe, Asia-Pacific, and the Middle East. Europe. Russia invades Ukraine. U.S. and EU place sanctions on Russia. New York Times. CIA, massively engaged on the ground in the Ukraine, confirms CIA agents are directing the war in the Ukraine. Sweden and Finland request membership in NATO. Ukraine denied membership in NATO, but may be extended the EU candidate status. The vote will happen this Wednesday, that is today, June 29th, 2022. This is a critical juncture. U.S. provides weapons to the Ukraine. Germany provides weapons to the Ukraine. Poland provides weapons to the Ukraine. Multiple Russian ships sunk by the Ukraine. Russian natural gas used as a weapon against the EU. Russia fires ground-to-air missiles at IDF fighter jets over Syria. Russia increases pressure on Israel. Finland suspends its rail link between Russia and the EU. Lithuania closes rail link to Kaliningrad. Russia threatens Lithuania. Lithuania hit by significant cyber attacks. Russia threatens Poland and prepares to supply nuclear-capable missiles to Belarus. Poland calls for NATO to boost security in the Suwalki Gap that connects 3 Baltic states with NATO and separates Kaliningrad from Russia's ally, Belarus. The Suwalki Gap is ground zero for military conflict between NATO and Russia. Up to 80 Polish mercenaries, 20 armed combat vehicles, 8 Grad multiple rocket launchers were destroyed in precision strikes on the Megatex zinc factory. Russia transferring nuclear-capable Iskander-M missile systems to Belarus over the coming months. U.S. and NATO planes training to carry nuclear warheads close to Belarus. Belarus asks Putin to convert Russian fighter jets to carry nuclear warheads. Russian declares U.S. embassy as a target. Russia strikes Kiev as Western leaders meet in Europe. Biden decries barbarism after Russia strikes kindergarten in Kiev. U.S. preparing to provide air defense system to Ukraine. NATO preparing for massive buildup in East Europe. Russia defaults on foreign debt for the first time since 1918. Russia ally Belarus unleashes rocket airstrikes into northern Ukraine. Russia and Chinese are brewing up a challenge to the dollar dominance. Russia missiles strike shopping center with over 1,000 people inside. Lithuania targeted by Russian cyber attacks. Russia has warned through news media, diplomats, and Putin that a nuclear exchange with NATO is possible, maybe even probable. NATO puts 300,000 troops on alert, adding them to the fast reaction force. Russian diplomat says he can hear the hoofbeats of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Russia bombers with nuclear weapons entered EU airspace before being intercepted by fighter jets. That covers what's been happening in the Ukraine. As the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times, and we surely do. They are called the end times. God bless, and goodbye until the next Red Alert.
Red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert.